Hello, everyone. I'm Tony Philippone, registered financial consultant, author of the best-selling book, Financial Planning for the Not Yet Wealthy. The topic of my video today is the 5 biggest estate planning mistakes that Rockford retirees make. Before I jump into those 5 mistakes, there's one of the biggest retirement mistakes, not estate planning mistakes, retirement mistakes that most retirees make. And I've created an entire video just of this one big mistake, and I show you how to avoid it. So please, if you haven't checked that out yet, you can go check it out right now. There should be a link to it right around this video. Go check out that one biggest retirement mistake so that you don't make it. So be sure to check out that video. So let's get into our mistakes right now. Number one, not having a will or a trust at all. That's the number one estate planning mistake. A lot of people I meet at my classes that I teach will tell me, yeah, Tony, we've just never gotten around to that. And I understand it's an icky, putsy topic to want to address. You're thinking about your own mortality. It's not a fun thing to talk about. Yet, if we don't do it, not only are we leaving a big mess for our family that could take years to sort out and create all kinds of uh, infighting in our family, but also there's some documents in your estate plan that are going to affect you while you're alive that you really need to take care of, and we'll talk about those a little later on. Mistake number two, estate planning mistake number two. You have an estate plan, but you haven't really looked at it in 15 or 20 years. Well, listen, that's better than nothing. At least you have done something. You've taken some initiative here to fix the problem. But if you haven't looked at it in 15 or 20 years, how valuable is that estate plan? Really? I mean, have things changed in your life at all in the last 15 or 20 years? I mean, might you have acquired a property? Maybe you've opened up a new bank account or a new investment account. Maybe you've gotten an inheritance. Maybe there's been children or grandchildren born into the family. Maybe you bought or sold a business. Maybe you've retired. A lot of your goals, maybe you're just mad at one of those kids and you want to cut them out. But seriously, a lot of things may have changed in the last 15 or 20 years. It's really advisable to update an estate plan every 2 to 5 years and make sure that you're on top of that estate plan. Mistake number three, you have an incomplete estate plan. Now, this happens way more often than most people realize. What happens is, you go and you spend this money with an attorney, and he sends you home with this beautiful binder full of legal documents, and you just sleep so good that night because you've done what you're supposed to do to not leave a mess for your families. Congratulations. However, there's some things in this binder that you might not have remembered, or maybe you didn't even know they were there. So let me give you an example. Recently, I had a client get his estate plan done, but he never did any of the follow-up work, such as meet with me, his financial advisor. A good estate plan is only halfway done until you have met with your financial advisor. Why do I say that? Well, there's additional steps that you need to take, such as updating your beneficiaries on your accounts, maybe retitling some of your accounts to include the trust document that you've created as a beneficiary. So these are things that just need to be done. You might want to go back to your bank. If you haven't gone back to your bank and retitled your checking and your savings account into the trust, maybe some people haven't even retitled their home into the trust. So they have this trust, and it just sits there like an empty box with no assets in it, even though they have assets, because they didn't do the follow through. They've created the box, which is the trust, but they haven't put any assets into the trust because they never did the follow up work. And a lot of times this gets missed. My job as a financial advisor is to check on that. That's one of the things I check on with every client, every single client. We make sure that not only do they have the right documents, but that they've taken the right steps to actually make the documents work. So, what good is a trust if you never directed any of your assets to be assigned to the trust? And again, this happens way more often. Don't think, oh, I'm good. And, unless you've spoken to your financial advisor about it, it's something you want to bring up at your next meeting. And if your financial advisor says, I don't deal with that, then you might want to look for a more holistic financial advisor who does, because, my job is to grow your money. But let's face it, if it doesn't end up where you want it to end up, then, what kind of a job am I really doing, right? What kind of advisor am I, right? So anyway, I digress. So, uh, big financial estate planning mistake number 4, not storing your documents properly. Certain documents in your estate plan, such as your healthcare power of attorney, need to be stored properly. Why do I say that? Well, your healthcare power of attorney is one of those documents that affects you while you're alive, right? Because that, excuse me, that document gives the authority over to an agent, usually your spouse or maybe one of your kids, to act on your behalf if you become incapacitated, if you get into an accident, have a stroke, if something happens where you can't act for yourself, you're allowing someone else to act on your behalf to facilitate your health care. That's pretty big. That's a big deal, right? It's life or death decision stuff. So we get this stuff done, but you get into a car wreck, they drive you to the hospital. If you don't have that power of attorney with you, your spouse shows up and what does your spouse do? Does your spouse stop at home and start looking for the binder when she hears that call that you're in the hospital? I hope not, right? If you've got a good relationship, she runs to the hospital to be by your side. Then, if you can't speak for yourself, then they bring in this form, right? And it's the hospital's form. Now, you did all the work to create the legal document. You spent the money. You did everything right to protect your own rights. And then they came in with their form in the last minute. And, who's the hospital's form designed to protect you? Or is it to protect the hospital? Right? So you did all this work. You want that work to be of value, right? So your healthcare power of attorney needs to show up when the accident happens. Well, how do you do that, right? And some people say, oh, I filed it with my doctor or I filed it with the hospital. Well, that's okay. But what if you're on a trip and you're nowhere near home? That's not going to help, right? So what you need to do is have that healthcare power of attorney stored electronically. And you can there's services that do this where we can have a little card that we just stick in your wallet, and you get in an accident, it's right next to your driver's license, and they say, oh, this guy's got a healthcare power of attorney, and you can pull it up anywhere in the world, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, over the internet or over an 800 number. So that service exists, and it's really the right way to store, I think, a healthcare power of attorney. Mistake number 5: being proactive with your financial power of attorneys, or really not being proactive would be the mistake. So we talked about healthcare power of attorney. There's a power of attorney for finance. This is a document that allows you to get access to your money, to your spouse's money, usually, when your spouse is incapacitated. So this is a really important document, because you think about it, a lot of people think, well, we have joint accounts, so we're good. All our money's joint. We just do everything joint. Well, think about your retirement account. Did you know retirement accounts are not joint accounts? They cannot be joint accounts. There's no such thing as a joint 401k or a joint IRA. In fact, an IRA stands for individual retirement arrangement because it's for one person at a time. So let's say you've got, maybe you have a lopsided household where maybe the husband or the wife put all of their money into retirement, but the other spouse didn't. They're just counting on the husband, right? In that case. What if the husband gets incapacitated and the wife calls up to get to the money, and she can't, it's not her money. I mean, kind of is, but lawfully it isn't. And are they just going to write you a check? I mean, think about it. Financial institutions, do they like when you put money in, or do they like when you pull money out? Yeah, they like when you put money in, right? So you need to have this stuff worked out in advance, because what I found out is not all financial institutions view your power of attorney the same. Each financial institution has their own set of rules, and they may or may not honor that document depending on how old it is, depending on how it was signed, depending on all kinds of different things that they can nitpick at. And really, if they give away your money and they're not supposed to, who's on the hook, right? They have some liability there, so they do have to be careful before they just release your funds, right? So it gets kind of sticky. So there's some proactive steps you can take to make sure that power of attorney is going to work. And a lot of people miss those steps. So my message of this video is that the 5 big estate planning mistakes are: you need to be working not just with your estate planning attorney, but with your financial advisor to make sure this stuff is going to work together, to work in unison, and that it all works out. So again, if you haven't watched my video about the biggest retirement mistake and how to avoid it, please go check that out now, because you're not going to want to miss that information. Thanks again for watching. I hope you found this information helpful, and have a great day. Bye-bye.